It's now time for this week's Difficult Conversation. Now, she's best known as the fabulous assistant of late magician Paul Daniels. Debbie was born in Surrey to parents that ran a corner shop. But it was clear from an early age that she was made for the stage. And after graduating from the Royal Ballet School, Debbie toured Europe as a dancer with acts including Krista Berg and first performed on stage with Paul in 1979, who she'd later be married to for almost 30 years. Debbie became one of the first female magicians to join the Magic Circle, and she's appeared on Celebrity MasterChef, Come Dine With Me, and, of course, Strictly Come Dancing, that incredible performance, that Argentine tango. It's just one I could not forget. I rewound it, I watched it again and again. Not to mention, of course, performing in pantomimes and presenting her own radio show, and there's nothing that Debbie can't turn her magic hand to. And after the death of her beloved husband, Paul Daniels, who died from a brain tumour at the age of 77, Debbie said that she was hugged by strangers in the street. So, is she open to love again? Let's ask her. She's right here. She joins me now, Debbie.
Nana, first of all, before we talk about me or whether I'm open to love again, going to your national service debate, I'm all for that, but not for them learning to shoot guns and kill people.
Yeah.
I think at 16 it would be great if they had a year of, sports, learning first aid, so that if they meet somebody in the street that needs help, and all sorts of, and learn things, business studies and things that we all need in life.
Life skills.
Yeah, life skills, that's the word. Life skills. So anyway, enough about that.
I agree. We'll talk about that later, Debbie. You also kept you on for the debate.
Yeah.
But let's talk about you, Debbie, because you talk to me about your sort of story, because people want to know more about you. You were born in London. You're somebody who's lived...
Yes, South London.
Talk to me about the sort of what your parents were like and what life was like for you growing up.
I just think I've been the luckiest person ever, because I came from a very working class background. My dad was Irish and... very loving and supportive background. I mean, absolutely secure. And then, but, from about 5, I used to copy dancers and anything musical on TV. So my parents sent me to a little dancing school. And then I used to do competitions. And when I was about 11, my dad, being very wise, said, if you're going to do this professionally, and he must have seen that I had some sort of talent, he said, you need to go to a better school. So at 11, I changed dancing schools, and then, having been the star at a smaller school, I was then the worst at a bigger school.
Of course, yeah.
But I did very well and started doing really well there. I went to the Royal Ballet School doing a teaching course, but I was also learning, with the dancers that were at the Royal Ballet School. And then I've always been a bit of a squirrel with money. And so when it came that I was graduating and we'd all go off around Europe to dance with European ballet companies and try and get a job, there was suddenly a notice in the stage newspaper that the Iranian National Ballet were going to be in London auditioning, and they were paying 5 times what the Royal Ballet were paying. So I auditioned, and then my poor parents, because I was always independent and wanting to travel, and I said, right, that's it. I'm off to Iran, to this ballet company. I'll stay about 3 years. I'll save lots of money. Then I'll come back and buy some properties so that if I go into show business, it doesn't work, I can fall back on that and I've got an income. So that was my plan. But, of course, little did I know that 7 months after being there, the Ayatollah came back, and then we all had to hide, who were Westerners in the company, in this big block of flats, but we couldn't get food, we couldn't go out. Wow. The boys used to go out at 7 o'clock in the morning and get us flatbread. In Iran, they had little bakeries, but they were like pizza ovens on the roadside, and they'd cook them 3 times a day. So the boys went to the first cook of the day at 7 in the morning, and we lived on that and a few tinned things. And I had saved a lot of money by then in that 7 months. So myself and 2 friends, we knew somebody who was linked to the airline. We paid about 10 times what it would normally cost to come back to Europe, bought tickets, and we were on the last plane to leave Tehran before they closed the airport. And even to this day, I can remember it was dawn because we had a curfew and we couldn't leave any earlier, being driven to the airport in a taxi and seeing the tanks surrounding Tehran as the sun was coming up. And then if you've seen the film Argo with Ben Affleck, it's all about people being caught in Iran. Well, it's my story. and they were in an apartment block and escaped. And when I got to the airport, my visa had been Tipexed, and they thought I'd done it. And so they my 2 friends went through passport control. I was put in an office, but it was like a cupboard. And I literally, at 19, chatted up a young customs officer who came in and sort of said, "What are you doing in here?" And I said, blah, blah, blah. And he literally stamped my passport and said, "Run." And I ran like in Argo across the tarmac, past soldiers, with machine guns, up the stairs onto the plane like in a movie, but Argo had it. Staircase went up and I got to Switzerland, and then I reversed charges to Mum and Dad and said, "It's okay, I'm safe and I'm out." But they hadn't heard from me for 3 months.
Oh, my God.
And my dad, for the rest of his life, could never talk about it.
Oh, are you an only child?
No, I've got a brother and a sister, but I was the eldest.
Okay.
And they have never done anything mad like I have done. So I was the one, I think, that gave Mum and Dad more worries. But then I came back, you see, and I trained in some modern dancing. And so none of the ballet companies were auditioning. So I auditioned for a big organisation that were putting summer shows on around the country. And they put me with Paul Daniels. Now, I had no idea who Paul Daniels was, and I didn't know what he did. I just thought he must be a comedian or a singer. I hadn't seen him. So I signed this 4.5-month contract to go to Great Yarmouth for his summer season, and then went home and sort of rung friends and said to Mum and Dad, "Oh, I've got a job, but it's with this guy, Paul Daniels." And then they said, "He's a magician." And I went, "Oh, no. Hate magic. And I'm going to work with a magician for 4.5 months." So, but of course, then I realised the only thing I'd seen Paul do before I started rehearsals was Blankety Blank, where he was really, really funny. And I thought, oh, actually, this might be okay. But not for 1 minute did I think I'd ever end up married to him.
So so when did you sort of fall in love with Paul? Was it
the first moment I saw him?
Really?
Yeah, we were both early because were always people that got places early. And the rehearsal room was a church hall, and I was sitting outside on the wall, and I was there first. And then I can remember he came up with his box of tricks and started joking with me, and we had some banter, and we just had an instant charisma. But I was 20 years younger than him. So for 8 years, he just kept saying, "Go and find a boyfriend your own age, you're too young." And then when I got to 28, he thought, well, the press won't be so difficult and it won't look so much, like I'm so much younger.
So you weren't actually a couple until you were a lot older?
No. He'd take me to opening nights and different things, the Magic Circle banquet and stuff like that, but no.
So you never actually kissed him or anything like that in that time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did just... That's just so nosy.
That's a little secret.
I'm just nosy.
Well, they're the exciting kisses, aren't they? But no, so, yeah, and then, he still thought I was too young, but then I started doing his TV show, which came about from auditioning for his director and producer. And the first year I auditioned, I didn't get it. And then the second year... I think it was his third year of his TV show. We were in the West End doing a year show at the Prince of Wales Theatre, and I'd auditioned for his director, and the producer came to the show. And up until then, they used different people every year, 2 different girls each year. And he said, "Oh, would I like to do the show?" So I joined the third year with another girl called Mandy, who I'm still best friends with. And then, the rest is history, really. They just kept me on.
I remember watching an interview with you with Paul Daniels, and what's the secret? And you said that you literally laugh all the time.
And we did.
You just laughed.
We just laughed. We played jokes on each other all the time.
Yeah, and of course, when he died, that must have been very tough.
Yeah. Grief isn't what I thought it was. I'd lost my dad 18 months before Paul, who I was really close to, and that pain and sadness. And I can remember 6 months after my dad died, we were flying back from America from a job, and I cried the whole 8 hours on the plane. Suddenly my grief came out, and it was awful. But when Paul died, it was a completely different grief. It's your partner who I worked and shared my life with, and your support blanket's gone.
No.
It's the only way I never expected. I've always been so independent. I never expected that, but I suddenly became quite vulnerable. And, that really... I felt like I was in an ocean and I didn't know where to swim. And I can remember going shopping to a department store near where I live, and you know, we were always ringing each other. And I went to go and ring home and then thought, no, he's not there. And that was the first time the reality kicked in. And then, yeah, you have to carry on.
You have to, yes. But you've carried on. You've done some incredible things like Strictly dancing.
How lucky am I?
McGee. God, she's good. You're so good.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm just one of those people that I just think, I'll have a go. You know, that's what you have to do, and do your best. It's all about doing your best. And then even if you're rubbish at something, you've done your best, so that's fine. And after Paul died, I went back to my radio show like the week after, which the doctor told me to do to get back into normal life. And I spoke to a friend who's a grief counsellor who said they used to believe that grief shrunk. You know how they say time heals? But they don't believe that now. They believe that your grief stays the same and you have to build a bigger life around it. And I absolutely believe that. I still miss Paul every day. I miss those laughs. You know, I miss, here's something interesting. I'd ring and tell him, or he'd ring me. I miss all of that, making every decision with him. But now I've just, I say yes to everything. And life's good again.
Well, I'm so glad you said yes to this show. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Well, I wanted to meet you.
I wanted to meet you as well. I'm like, Debbie McGee. I will never forget your Argentine tango. It really was a moment. You know how you rewind, I rewound it, watch it again and again. You had such poise and grace.
Well, the thing is, I suppose I had been at the Royal Ballet School 40 years before I did Strictly, and I hadn't kept my dancing up, but I do yoga and Pilates. And so, therefore, I had that still kept, that kind of strength, I suppose. And I was dancing with an amazing partner.
Yeah,
he was tough, though. I mean, they are tough.
Yeah.
Strictly.
But you were incredible, and it was so good to see. So right now, you're ready for, are you open to meeting with other people now? Are you dating still?
Do you know, I have no idea. Because I just think if you look for something, you won't find it. And you feel, you'll be desperate. So what I've done with my life is I do everything that makes me happy. And I see lots of friends. I go on holiday with friends, you know. But I'm not on dating websites or anything like that. I just think if it's meant to happen to me, it will one day. And that would be lovely. But in the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy myself. And I am.
Well, listen, Debbie, I really appreciate you coming in to talk to me.
Thank you for asking me.
Thank you so much. That is the incredible Debbie McGee.